I want to ask you something. Have you ever been called rude and genuinely had no idea what you did wrong? Or perhaps you were the American, trying to make friendly conversation, and the German in the room offered a very honest opinion about your haircut that you did not ask for. Both experiences are valid. One of them is more efficient. Hello, willkommen. Welcome back to German-American Life and Vibes, the channel where we explore everything surprising, delightful, and occasionally deeply confusing about the friendship between Germany and the United States. Today, we are doing something a little different, because usually on this channel we talk about the things that connect us. Today, we are going to talk about the things that, on the surface, look like they divide us. The habits, the customs, the ways of being in the world that make Americans look at Germans and say, "Why? Why are you like this?" 7 things Germans do that Americans genuinely do not understand. And the twist? Every single one of them makes complete sense. Possibly more sense than the alternative. Let us begin. Honesty is not an attack, it is a gift. Germans are direct. This is the thing Americans most frequently mention when they talk about German culture. More than the bread, more than the recycling, even more than the Autobahn. Germans say what they mean. If your presentation has a problem, a German colleague will tell you, in the meeting, in front of everyone. Not because they dislike you, because the presentation has a problem, and that is genuinely useful information. If your new haircut is not working, a German friend may mention this, not as cruelty, as a service. If someone asks a German, "How are you?" and the German has had a difficult week, the German may actually tell them the full story, with details. Americans, raised in a communication culture that prizes warmth, social harmony, and the careful cushioning of every difficult truth, often experience German directness as aggression. It is not. It is respect. Here is what German directness actually says. "I believe you are capable of handling the truth. I am not going to waste your time wrapping it in 14 layers of softening. I trust you enough to be honest with you." Americans say, "That's interesting," when they mean, "I disagree." Germans say, "I disagree," when they disagree. One of these saves a great deal of time and prevents a great deal of confusion. German directness is not unkindness. It is a different shape of kindness. Once you understand that, the honesty stops feeling like an attack. It starts feeling like someone who actually takes you seriously. That is, honestly, quite rare. Depth over performance, always. Germans do not do small talk. Not because they are antisocial, not because they are unfriendly, but because, and I say this with complete conviction, Germans find small talk slightly exhausting and slightly dishonest, and they would rather skip it and go directly to the part where something is actually being said. The weather, sports scores, how was your weekend? These things are not conversation. They are warm-up exercises, and Germany mostly skips the warm-up. Here is what Germans do instead. They wait, they observe, and when they decide to speak, they have something to say. German friendships take longer to form. This is absolutely true. The first months with a German acquaintance can feel like an extended interview for a position you did not realize you were applying for. But once a German is your friend, they are your friend. Not your acquaintance, not your friendly colleague. Your actual, loyal, will help you move at 6 in the morning in November friend. The one who shows up 15 years later without being asked. Americans are wonderful at making you feel immediately welcome. Germans are wonderful at still being there a decade later. These are not competing qualities. They are different kinds of warmth. Germany just front-loads the cold part. The Pfand is not chaos. The Pfand is a working system. Let me describe the German waste separation system. You have the Restmüll for general waste, the Gelber Sack for packaging, plastic, metal, composite materials, the Papiertonne for paper and cardboard, the Biotonne for organic waste. Glass goes to the public collection point, separated by color, white, brown, green, and not before 10 in the morning on weekdays. And then there is the Pfand. The Pfand. Every plastic bottle, every glass bottle, every aluminium can carries a small deposit. 10 cents, 15, 25. You return the bottle to a machine at the supermarket. The machine scans it, accepts it. You receive your money back. Germany's plastic bottle return rate is 98%. 98%. Not because Germans are morally superior, because the system makes returning the bottle the obvious, convenient, satisfying thing to do. The machine makes a small sound of acceptance. You feel, briefly, like you have accomplished something real. Americans encounter this system and call it complicated. Germans encounter the American single-stream recycling bin. Everything together, good luck, may or may not actually be recycled. Nobody is entirely sure, and feel a quiet, private grief. The Pfand is not an obsession. It is a working system. And Germany is deeply, fundamentally attached to those. Rest is not laziness. It is infrastructure. In Germany, Sunday is protected. Shops are closed. Power tools are forbidden. Loud garden machinery, not permitted. Significant noise of any kind, not permitted. Not in certain neighborhoods, not as a courtesy, by law. Americans experience this as an inconvenience. The inability to shop, to build, to be productively busy on a Sunday afternoon. Germany experiences it as a right, the right to rest. Sonntagsruhe, Sunday quiet, is no longer a religious rule. It is a social contract. A collective agreement that one day per week, the machinery of efficiency stops. Not because nothing needs doing, because something else also matters. The research on rest, on cognitive recovery, on the human need for genuine, unhurried pause, strongly, repeatedly, consistently supports the German model. But Germany did not need the research. Germany already knew. The first time you experience a real German Sunday, without trying to be productive, without a plan, it feels a little like being given permission to exhale. Take it. Order is not control. Order is fairness. Germans like rules, schedules, systems, proper procedure. The correct form, submitted to the correct department, within the correct window, with the correct documentation attached. Americans, raised on improvisation, frontier spirit, the beautiful belief that there is always another way, look at this and see rigidity. Here is what Germany knows that sometimes gets forgotten elsewhere. Rules are not about control. They are about fairness. When the rule is clear, everyone knows where they stand. The system does not depend on who you know or how charming you are or whether you caught someone in a generous mood. The rule applies to everyone, equally. Germans stand at a red pedestrian light with no cars for miles in either direction. Not because they fear the fine, because children are watching. Because the norm must be maintained consistently, or it is not a norm at all. Because a society where everyone follows the rule only when convenient is not, technically, following the rule. This can look like rigidity. It is actually a form of quiet, civic commitment. A belief that collective agreements matter more than individual convenience in any given moment. This is admirable. Even when it is a little maddening at a red light at 2 in the morning with not a car in sight. Privacy has a price. Germany knows exactly what it is. Germany loves cash, not as nostalgia, not as habit, as deliberate, considered choice. Germany is, by a significant margin, one of the most cash-reliant economies in the developed world. Germans pay cash at restaurants, at markets, at the bakery, at the supermarket, at establishments that have accepted contactless payment for years, and whose German customers use it approximately 40% of the time. Americans, who tap their phone on a reader without thinking, who Venmo for a coffee, find this completely baffling. There is a reason. Cash leaves no trace, no data trail, no record of what you bought, where, when, and what that might suggest about you as a person. Germany, a country that has experienced within living memory 2 separate regimes that used surveillance actively as a tool of control, has a relationship with personal data that is not abstract. It is historical. The German instinct to protect personal information, to pay cash, to resist casual data collection, to read every privacy policy, to be suspicious of any convenience that costs nothing visible, is not paranoia. It is memory. The window must be opened. This is not a suggestion. Number 7, and I want to be clear, this is entirely real. Germans open their windows every day, every season. Rained, cold, wind, completely irrelevant. The windows are opened, the stale air goes out, the fresh air comes in, the apartment breathes. This is called Lüften, and it is not a casual habit. It is a daily practice that borders, honestly, on a moral position. Germans will open a window in January. They will open a window in the rain. They will open a window 15 minutes after turning on the heating with, as far as I can tell, no awareness of the paradox whatsoever. Americans in Germany experience Lüften as a minor but recurring assault. But here is the thing. The science is correct. Indoor air quality is, consistently, significantly worse than outdoor air, even in cities, even in winter. Regular ventilation reduces CO2 levels, humidity, and airborne particles. The German grandmother who insisted on open windows despite all protests was not being dramatic. She was right. Germany is right about a surprising number of things that look, from the outside, like mild eccentricity. Lüften is one more example. Open the window. Just try it. 7 things. Direct communication. Skipping small talk. An elaborate and frankly brilliant recycling system. Shops closed on Sunday. Rules followed consistently. Cash chosen deliberately. Windows opened daily. None of these things are strange. They are considered. Germany is a country that has thought quite carefully about how to live, how to treat each other honestly, how to build systems that are fair, how to protect time and privacy and rest and air. Not perfectly. No country manages that, but thoughtfully. The next time a German says something completely honest about your work, or asks for exact change, or refuses to use a power drill on a Sunday, or opens every window in October, consider that there is probably a reason. There almost always is. Tschüss. Bis bald. Subscribe so you do not miss another story. Like this video if it changed how you will think about at least one German in your life. And leave me a comment below. Which one surprised you most? Which one made you think, wait, that actually makes sense? Because I know at least one of them did. Servus und tschüss.